The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have some weird characters, and that's saying something considering who our main heroes are. But the creators of the shows, comics, and movies don't really shy away from things that others wouldn't even dream of doing. Like, just take a look at Bebop and Rocksteady, a mutant warhog and a rhino. Their look, everything about them is amazing. So today we're going to cast some of the best and weirdest characters within the world of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've already casted the main villains and the turtles themselves, so check out those past videos if you haven't already. But before I get started today, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Surfshark. Now, Surfshark is a VPN that allows you to protect your data from it being breached, which is great. But if I'm being honest, I mainly use it to change my IP address so I can watch things that aren't available in my country. Like, let's say you want to watch the Turtles and you live in Canada. Well, you only have one option, so you're kind of out of luck. Or you could change your IP address to appear like you're from the States. Then you have more options as well as the 2012 series to watch. And the great thing about Surfshark is it allows unlimited devices. So use promo code BrianSeeker to get 83% off and 3 months extra free. So check the link in the description below for more details. But for today's casting, we're tackling Bebop and Rocksteady, Baxter Stockman, Jennika, and Karai. So let's recast the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for today. Now let's start off with Bebop and Rocksteady, because as I've stated before, they're amazing. Although I didn't hate the live action version of them that we saw, it just seemed a little bit not realistic. Like, I never really bought into that friendship. It just kind of seems like two characters who were just popped in there. They didn't do a bad job per se, but I think they could dial in a little bit more of the comic relief and the dim-witted nature that we just know so well. They should be a pair that just fail at everything and eventually find their way into this role, and largely they just kind of get grouped together. I want each of them to stand out, and both of them be a little bit more of their own character, rather than being interchangeable. I do think it's important for them to look physically dominant before the transformation as well as after, but I almost want them to feel like bouncers. But it's important that they both have that voice, that low octave enforcer feel that they actually did a really great job of in the 2016 version. Now first off, Rocksteady, the rhino of the group, I think should be a little bit more of the forceful one. I think he should go into every situation head first, and Bebop be a little bit more of that comic relief, and his buddy just following him. I want a headstrong actor. I think we can go with a little bit more crazy, that thick-headed and that dumb, dim-witted nature would work really well. I'm with Braun Strowman, who I think perfectly sells that crazy, mean persona, but definitely can lean into that dumb nature. He feels like a younger version of the Big Show, and although he has limited acting ability, you can really see that he could pull this thing off. I want him to be the more traditional, as we've seen with Rocksteady and Bebop in the past, but I think he'd really nail this one. For Bebop, however, I went with Devon McDonald, who at face value doesn't look much like the character, but I think he's got that perfect comedic timing, and he's almost a little bit demoralizing. I think it'd be really great to have something a little bit different here, and with Bebop, I think Devon would just bring something different.
I live in South Central, and I hated it. So I moved to Oahu. Now I can name you over 200 different kinds of fish.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
Do it! Yeah, you cannot.
G, ghost piper fish, grilled fish, goler fish, grouper fish, greenback.
What's the state fish of Hawaii?
Huma huma nuka nuka apua. Yeah, bitch!
Don't get me wrong, you can still do that enforcer voice, as we perfectly saw in Chip and Dale.
You, come with me.
He could lean into that self-deprecating humor, and really work well with Strowman to make them stand out individually. So Devon McDonald and Braun Strowman as Bebop and Rocksteady. Next up we have Baxter Stockman, a scientist who should be brilliant, but mad. Now, I think the way that Tyler Perry took this character was fine, but I would like for this to be a touch more menacing. Don't get me wrong, he's a comic book character and you can totally play him this way, but I'd like to think of more of a David Cronenberg Fly, leaning into those practical effects and really have a little bit of a horror element here. Think Doc Ock or even Green Goblin. Them having a real presence of a real actor really matters. That's why I went with Giancarlo Esposito. I mean, he's played every bad guy under the sun, but I still think he's the perfect person to nail this. I think he really hasn't done anything like this with a horror element, and something that could lean into prosthetics and really have him push past what he's done before. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's incredible in The Boys, Breaking Bad, and even Mando. And he shows that perfect calculated nature that he has that makes him perfect to play a scientist, but I want to see him going mad, having fun with this role. I think Giancarlo Esposito could really do something great here.
Then I guess you don't want to know what I have planned for you.
So Giancarlo Esposito as Baxter Stockman. Next up we have Jennika, Now, I think there's something really interesting to do with this character. I mean, after you set up the Turtles, Shredder, and even the Foot Clan, I think Jenny would be a really good addition to movie 2 or 3. She's a Foot Clan member who was mutated by a blood transfusion from Leo, and she's really a badass. Now, before her mutation, she should be short, blonde, and athletic. She's tough and has this do-it-yourself attitude, much like Raph, but is a much better team player. Now, I want someone who still feels right with the Turtles I've cast, who are around teenager age, but slightly older to give it a little bit more of a different feel. I want someone who can really play in the team, but be on her own and do her own thing. Almost a little bit like Nightwing. Now, I went with Florence Pugh, who, yes, of course, has done a lot in the past, but she's one of my favorite actresses working today. I mean, she fits the bill perfectly. She can do an action sequence, she's short, blonde, but definitely has that spunk of personality. I think she'd really kill this, and since she's a little bit more senior than the rest of our Turtles, I think it'd really bring an interesting dynamic to the team.
I did not try to kill you. A, I put you on a wire to remove an obstacle, and B, I did not break anything. I am way too talented than that. And C, stop being so defensive.
So, Florence Pugh as Jennika. Lastly, we have Karai. Now, Karai has definitely had different backstories in the past, but I've always enjoyed her as the adopted daughter of Shredder, and someone who's really raised to kill and be really his right hand. She definitely tends to have that storyline where she turns into a hero, and I think that's where she works best. We obviously need a badass here, much like Jennika, but someone who has that flair of villain before the turn. There's so many times where I watch movies where I'm like, it's so obvious they're gonna turn good. I wanna make sure that we're guessing the entire way. I think many could work here, but I feel like Ryla Fukushima just works best. I mean, she's got that energy and that anger of a villain with that little glimmer of hope shining through. She's best known for her role in The Wolverine, where she plays a great anti-hero, as well as Katana and Arrow. You know, she just works so well in these action sequences, and with her being Japanese, it's just icing on the cake. She is a little older than I would like, but honestly, I think she doesn't look it.
This sword is hundreds of years old. It was named Danzan by the first samurai who used it. Danzan means separator in Japanese.
I think she'd perfectly tiptoe around what we need here, as well as make an amazing anti-hero later on in the series. So Ryla Fukushima as Karai. So how do you think I did here? Who are your choices? Let me know in the comments below. That is the end of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. Thank you so much for watching. Obviously, I'll be moving on to a new franchise coming up soon, as well as I'm going to try and follow the releases that are coming out. So like Clerks coming up in September, or even Black Panther in November. But let me know what you'd like to see next as well. As always though, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.